Okay, so this is the Huawei P30 Pro, and this here is the intro-less review, starting off with the design and the build quality. And well, when it comes to that, I have to actually say that if you've ever held an S9 Plus or S10 Plus in your hand, you pretty much already exactly know how this one feels, but in this case with better ergonomics, because in my opinion the power button here is where it actually should be, just as well as the way more convenient to reach volume rocker. And I mean, even though the fingerprint reader itself might not be better, the whole unlock experience is way better for three main reasons. First of all, the display turns on way faster, it's usually also way more reliable, and the whole screen turn on time and unlock animation feel way more natural. And believe me, this doesn't seem to make a big difference, but in daily use, just being able to actually even blindly grab onto it and unlock it makes a huge difference. But we also definitely have quite a few similarities, like for example, the edge display, the glass back that will attract fingerprints, and the camera that protrudes, even though in this case it's off center and it will wobble a little bit more. But general in-hand feel is very similar, and even though we have the cut off top and bottom here, this is something you won't ever actually feel, so I like it still. But in terms of size, if you compare with the P30, here we have to say that the P30 Pro is bigger, but they generally don't feel anything alike, since this one has the flat screen, also is generally smaller and therefore has thicker sides, which give it a completely different, but in my opinion, better in-hand feel, but obviously that's subjective. On the top here we have the microphone, an IR blaster, nothing on the left, on the bottom the speaker, USB Type-C and the SIM card tray. What we don't have on the front is the notification LED, but what we have is obviously a camera with, as you can see here, the notch, which in my opinion is still by far the best solution, since you can hide it and then you still have a very moderately, actually small, I would say, bezel, which is already smaller even here, so a little bit bigger on the bottom, and on the sides it's fine. But I definitely think we have to get into one thing, because it might already disturb you, is the flickering. Well, this is due to PWM being used by the display, which means that this is also on a low frequency, since you can see it's so obvious. I could try to turn it down a little bit in the settings, but then my lights would flicker. So what this usually also intends that this is a little bit of a lower quality display, but let's already get to that. I have to say that a lot of people in the comments of my P30 review have a lot of complaints about this display. And I mean, we have normal and vivid, we have color calibration modes and all these kinds of things, but I still have to say that this is not a worthy display for this phone, because it generally feels a little bit like there is some kind of dust over the screen. The white is just not clean. The white calibration is not an issue, because you can actually obviously set it up on your own. We have some minor distortions on the sides, some obvious glare, but all that didn't really bother me. I have to just say that colors and overall clarity and quality just weren't on anything particular of a high level, because you can get displays like this, obviously besides the edge, already like on something like the Mi 9, and sometimes even more so impressive. So this display, even though it's still quite good, really good, I am not impressed. A little bit more impressed though, I have to say I am about the speakers compared to the P30 though. No stereo speaker. And Dolby Atmos is on. And well, I have to say that generally it is a little bit louder than on the P30, but that's pretty much its main advantage, because other than that, it still feels a little bit like tinny, it's also a little bit thin, and there are no clear mids, so I would reach for a little bit that. So it's a good speaker, but it's pretty much just as good on the P30, except of being loud. That's the only thing. And well, in this case, we don't have the headphone jack in the phone anymore, but it's pretty much just about on the same level, which means subpar. It could be louder, it could have a little bit better quality. I mean, for most people who just want a headphone jack, well, even though not in the phone, it will get the job done. And well, what the job will be done by is the SoC, because it's still a very smooth experience, but generally also have the same issue like on the P30 that I have here as well. Even though I said it in my P30 review that it's not a thing anymore, but I was just wrong. For some reason I felt like the odd performance issues aren't even there anymore, but they are. And people told me that they don't see them, but I will try to actually show them. And what I will do is actually mute the video, so it's actually playing, and then let's do something, scroll. And this is something that I mean, now it's obvious, this is stuttery, and in the browser it will be pretty much the same. So if we go into Chrome once again, you can see that that one doesn't work well anymore. And this is a thing that Huawei phones have for generations now, and they don't seem to be willing to fix it, or they can't fix it. I have no idea what's going on here, but this is not good, because everything else here on this phone doesn't feel particularly snappy or fast, but it feels very smooth and very consistent. But like I said, there are some issues, especially if you are using YouTube picture-in-picture mode on a regular basis or use two apps side by side. This is something that we will definitely notice it on. Otherwise, in terms of temps, it doesn't really get warm, so playing games will be also quite fine. I would say let's get into the battery here, and I have to say where I'm super impressed by is the charge time of 1 hour straight, and I think 77 or 76% in half an hour, which is a great value. But in terms of battery life, this is actually pretty much exactly on par with the P30 itself, because I got also about 6.5 to 7.5 hours on mobile data. I would say maybe 6.5 to 7, so pretty much the same level, about 10 hours plus on Wi-Fi, and over the course of 2 days you could get like 6 hours. It depends on your usage, but I generally also notice one thing on Huawei phones for a long time already, that like the first 30-40% hold up for way longer than the other 60%. Then the percentage readout isn't quite the same anymore. So just to keep that in mind. Software, I don't think we need to get into that. We have the Google Feed, we have the launcher with the drawer or not. It's optional. Quick settings. We have the theme engine. This is the black mode, by the way. And we have some options like, for example, the navigation bar that we can switch out through gestures, sound options and battery options, digital balance, and all these kinds of things. But there is not too much really helpful stuff. I mean, the basics have been got done, but still the same old gripes. Like I said, the YouTube bug is still there. Screen dimming, for all those asking, yes, is still there. I will link down to the fix for that, or the workaround that you can find on XDA. Then we have the apps that get still a little bit too early killed. For example, also DPI, if you set them in the developer settings, they still get reverted quite often. Actually, not only by a restart, but you could also just use, for example, text and display size and set the display size to small, which is 423, which is fine. I wanted 450, but it's fine. And then, for example, the screen brightness, what happens here quite often still is that it gets to automatic for no apparent reason once the phone is a little bit longer in standby. But I mean, I've talked about that for a long period of time. The software gets the job done. I still don't really like it because of those issues that are there for a long period of time anymore, but that's that. And well, when it comes to the camera, I've already made a very detailed video, about 38 minutes long, with a review and comparison between the P30 and P30 Pro. So I would say just check that one and you will get all the infos. But if you want to know it real quick, selfie cam is very good, but it's not great, and it's the same as on the P30. Low light qualities, yes, this is pretty much, I would say, class leading, because I think in many situations it feels better than on the Google, because on the Google everything feels very much software driven, where here even the normal mode, the low light capabilities already come through, where you don't have to use some kind of extra night mode. So that's a bonus in my opinion. What I don't see to be a bonus is the zoom function, but if you want it, it's there and it works quite okay. I would say definitely better than here. And then main camera is absolutely on a flagship level. And well, then we have video. That is not that, but it's getting a little bit better over time. I would say it's time for the conclusion. Okay, so, well, what's there left to say about the P30 Pro? Well, it's something that I actually didn't want to lead into the video with, and it is the fact that in my book, this is not a flagship phone. But wait, before people get too mad right now, I want to just make things clear. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what I call this, because the definition of a flagship phone seems to be debatable. Some say it's the IP rating, some say it's the camera and also wireless charging or things like that. And for me, it's just the best possible phone of a brand with the best possible attributes at the highest end level, like for example the display and the speaker. And this is just where this one didn't pull ahead of the Mate 20 Pro, because the display actually got worse, the speaker got worse, the performance didn't improve because it's pretty much on the same level, battery life a little bit better. And well, the main part that this one has going for it is the camera, which has better low light qualities, the video improved, selfies improved a little bit. But well, in my book, this doesn't make it the generally better phone, because it seems to me like a lot of people are generally just reviewing the phone's camera and then on the side the phone as well. But as you see it as a whole phone, in my opinion, at the moment, I would go over the P30 and over the P30 Pro for the Mate 20 Pro. The main reason, like I said, to go for the P30 is if you want a smaller compact phone and get some of the newer features with the way nicer, smaller, more compact in-hand feel. But if you go for the bigger one, I simply don't see much of a reason or enough of a reason to go for this one over the other one, because the Mate 20 Pro by now is noticeably cheaper. The camera isn't bad now after all, because I mean, what could have possibly have been changed in about half a year besides maybe the sensor and the zoom on? I mean, okay, I get it. If you went the best possible Huawei camera and you maybe want a little bit more battery life due to the worse screen and the weaker speaker and all that, and that is not something that you see as a compromise, then well, go ahead and go for the P30 Pro. But if you want, in my opinion, still the best possible Huawei phone as a whole, and especially in terms of value by now, the Mate 20 Pro is where it's at. And this is where it's ending the video. Okay, until next time, bye.